So you want to be a great quarterback in college football 27? Well, you come to the right place. Welcome to the Ultimate College Football 27 Quarterback Guide. Here are the things we're going to be going over in this video. I provided chapters for you to come back and review as the weeks go on, but this video is designed to help you understand and implement the mechanisms they've provided with the controller, as well as the settings in order to make sure you reach your full potential as a quarterback. We won't focus too much on reading defenses or concepts or anything like that, but instead we're going to focus on tuning your skills on the controller and finding the right settings that maximize your play style. Now, for my quarterbacks out there, be careful this year. The defense has gotten a lot of weapons added to their arsenal. They have a lot more defensive adjustments. There's also new AI coding like the look for work, where the defense focuses on staying active in their zones. This has made playing quarterback even harder this year because now more than ever, wide receiver opportunities for open passes aren't as prevalent and throwing windows are tighter than ever. Now, with that being understood, let's get into the most important setting that you're going to have to choose from the start. I'm going to give you the pros and cons to each one of them, and I'm also going to tell you which one I think you should choose based off of how much more challenging defense is going to be this year. And that choice is going to be between placement and accuracy and the revamped passing settings. Let's get into it. Let's start with placement and accuracy. Placement and accuracy allows for surgical type of control over your accuracy because it allows you to hold left trigger or L2 plus the left stick to implement freeform passing. This allows you to extend the throw outside of the normal passing area that you might normally find just using left stick by itself, and instead allows you to really get outside of that and control one of the most important things as a quarterback, which is the ability to throw your wide receivers open. Understand, a good quarterback finds the open wide receiver. A great quarterback throws a wide receiver open who may look like they're actually covered. Here's an example of me throwing a back shoulder with just the left stick. Okay, so I'm tilting the left stick towards the back shoulder and you're seeing how far I can tilt it. I can even adjust this in the settings with the pass lead. I have pass lead all the way on high and I'm just using the left stick. Okay, so now you have an idea of how far you can control it with just the left stick. Now, even if the left stick passing is set to high, the left stick by itself is not enough to get surgical and throw your wide receiver open on advanced throws. Now let's look at holding the left trigger or L2 while using the left stick to steer the pass. Look at how much more control I have. Now this is not something you can do every time. This is not something that I can close my eyes and just do it and time it with. This is very difficult. I didn't show you the previous 4+ times in a row where I didn't get this pass, right? I'm just showing you the one where it worked. But even if the timing wasn't correct on those ones that I was missing, at least the ball was able to be put into a spot where only my wide receiver could catch it. I'll take that because it allows me as a quarterback to be able to do the next thing, which is very important, which is to be able to throw the types of passes where either my wide receiver is going to catch it or nobody's going to catch it. Now on bullet passes with freeform passing, I don't actually start holding left trigger until about right when the ball gets into the back portion of the throwing motion. Then I'll hold the left trigger or L2 from that moment and steer the left stick all the way in whichever direction I'm trying to freeform in. This is much easier to me than trying to hold left trigger before or right when the throwing animation starts and then trying to steer it. And me personally, when it comes to steering this reticule, I don't even look at the reticule. If my timing of holding the left trigger or L2 is correct, which is in that back part of the throwing motion, for my sensitivity settings at least, that's what works best. If that part is correct, I know I don't even have to look at the reticule. I know it's gonna have a chance to be a great throw just off of the feeling or the rhythm of it. So that's another thing I want you to pay attention to is don't just try to look at the meter or don't just try to look at the reticule. Get into a rhythm where you feel what it's like to actually make certain throws or to be able to lead them a certain amount. You're gonna have a lot more success if you start to actually be able to just feel it versus having to try to look at the reticule on the field, which you might not be able to see sometimes, or look at a meter, which you might not be able to see sometimes as well, okay? Now keep in mind your timing will change also based on the throwing animation. There are many throwing animations, some are quicker, some are longer, some change depending on if you're throwing on the run or your feet are standing still, etc. But for the most part, you'll have a lot of success by just trying to do what I told you, which is try to time the left trigger or L2 plus the left stick when your quarterback is in that back portion of his throwing motion, no matter what throwing animation you are doing. Your reticule settings may be different based on what you like, but that's a good starting point and you can fine tune them from there. Now, this freeform passing is important for another reason. As a quarterback, you may not be able to get outside the pocket to throw the ball away because your quarterback is slow or the pressure is closing in from the outside. So if you were to press R3, which is the throw the ball away mechanic, and you're still inside the pocket, of course, that's an intentional grounding. Now holding the left trigger or L2, which is the freeform modifier, and steering the left stick can allow you to dump the ball at the running back's feet, for example. Because again, in this situation, you don't want to throw it directly at your running back right here, because as soon as he touches it, he's going to get drilled. So, but you can't throw it out of bounds because you're not outside the pocket. It'd be intentional grounding. So it's a little cheat code that quarterbacks in real life use to get rid of the ball but avoid intentional grounding. You can also sail it over a wide receiver's head the same way as well. This is very useful, and you see this a lot in real life by great game managing quarterbacks. So placement and accuracy unlocks the freeform passing, which is not available in Revamped passing. So that's one of the biggest pros to using it. But here are some of the cons of the placement and accuracy setting. The meter is very, very small to consistently get touch pass timing. Although it's not as common as a situation as throwing into maybe a tight window and trying to thread the needle, being able to throw touch passes over the head of linebackers is a scenario you will come across, especially this year with the new looking for work feature that you'll see the linebackers and safeties and defensive backs do. Lobbing it over their head can be very important this year more than others. Also, the arc on the ball on lob passes isn't as lofty as the Revamped pass settings lob passes for some reason. Revamped passing tends to put more realistic loft on lob passes that can drop down from better angles. Placement and accuracy lob passes can sometimes feel as if they're coming in more horizontal towards the point of impact with the wide receiver, which can allow a defensive back who may look like he's out of position to still come in and get his hand on the pass. The last con is the meter is very small, so trying to visualize it to time it is very tough. Again, I just go strictly off of feel, not trying to visually look at the meter when it comes time for a bullet pass, a touch pass, or a lob pass. Now let's get into the revamped pass setting, okay? Let's get into the pros of Revamped first. Revamped passing allows ultimate control over the velocity and arc of the passes compared to placement and accuracy. Placement and accuracy really just has like bullet, touch, or a lob pass. Revamped has a lot more nuance in the in-between sections of the meter, so you can throw blended passes when landing in certain parts of the meter, like a bullet/touch pass or a mix between a touch pass and a lob. Also, the meter is much easier to see and therefore time because it's much larger, and because it's much larger, the meter moves at a reasonable speed that makes timing much easier in terms of getting the type of pass that you want to throw. So for those who do like to visually see something and that helps with your timing, Revamped of course is much easier to time. So let's get to the cons of Revamped passing, and there's some weird things that happen with Revamped. Number one, the biggest con is for some reason EA Sports hasn't added the freeform passing or holding left trigger or L2 with the Revamp. That's been my number one gameplay request since College Football 25 is actually unlocking freeform passing with the Revamp passing. Quarterback play would be perfect if they could add that, but for some reason they haven't. That's a big deal because even though you have a lot more control over your touch on passes with the Revamp, you lose just as much control over surgically placing the ball or throwing your wide receiver completely open, as I've shown with the placement and accuracy, because again, Revamped for some reason does not allow for freeform passing. And this leads me to the next con, which is the only way to lead the pass is with the left stick only. But for some reason, the left stick pass leading doesn't work when you're scrambling with the quarterback. For example, if you're scrambling to the right with your quarterback, you got the left stick tilted all the way to the right, it's as if it disables you to lead the wide receiver for some reason. So again, you can see here, I'm scrambling to the right and I'm actually holding the left stick all the way over to the right. This should result in me being able to lead the wide receiver over towards the right as well, since I'm holding the left stick there. But again, it's not registering. This has been an issue since college football 25. Let's look at it with placement and accuracy. As I'm scrambling to the right with placement and accuracy, again, that unlocks Freeform, and I can hold that left trigger while scrambling and throwing the pass to really steer the ball even when my player is scrambling. When it comes time for you to lead the pass with the left stick only, in Revamped, you can only do it when your feet are still. When you get outside and you're scrambling, you can't even really lead the pass at all, which can create a lot of problems, especially this year, as the defense has settings like the plaster setting, which really sticks the defender to the nearest wide receiver when the quarterback starts to scramble. So now it's more important. This is a year that's more important than ever to be able to have control. Again, this is a huge con of revamp passing, and this is a huge win for placement and accuracy. So with that being said about placement and accuracy versus revamp passing, and the fact that defensive windows are tighter this year due to the new features like looking for work and the new wide receiver and defensive back jostling, I suggest that you use placement and accuracy this year. I think having complete control over steering for accuracy is a little bit more important than the nice variances and touch passes that you can achieve with Revamp. Since windows are tighter this year, if you use Revamp passing, which doesn't allow for freeform, you will not be able to fully unlock your full potential as a quarterback, and you will throw a lot more interceptions this year because coverage is much tighter. Now let's go over some actual controls and some tips on the controller that will help unlock your full potential as a quarterback and take your quarterback abilities to that next level. Let's start with a control that I think is often ignored or at least neglected, which is LB/L1. Holding this creates a high point pass. Do not forget to use this. You can do high point passes on bullet passes, on touch passes, etc. So this unlocks great placement. Now this year, with time-based catching, which I highly suggest you turn on because it allows you to really feel what it's like to fight for the ball in the air, just like you see wide receivers and defensive backs do in real life. Because time-based catching is in the game, it's more important than ever to be able to throw these high point passes using LB and L1 this year. Now, for the first time in 30 years, fade routes feel great and are a viable option. Practice throwing fade routes at the goal line by holding the high point pass modifier and come back to this video and leave a comment. Tell me how much better it feels this year. You can also throw some tough fade routes that are more bullet passes if you hold the LB and L1 modifier, that high point modifier. Don't think just because it's a fade route you have to lob it. Sometimes you see these quarterbacks throw some of these bullet back shoulder throw fade routes that are high point ones. Now you can do that with the freeform passing plus holding LB and L1, combine that with the wide receiver catch timing, and you're gonna really feel some great satisfaction getting some tough catches down in that red zone area. Now, earlier I spoke about one of the cons of placement and accuracy passing, which is the arc on the lob passes not being that great compared to the revamp passing setting. However, I do have a little bit of a fix for this. On your deep, long passes, again, hold LB and L1 before throwing it. This gives a much better arc where the ball stays at a proper coming down from the sky type of arc, so to speak, rather than flattening out at the end, which is what we normally have with the placement and accuracy lob passes. Now, since LB L1 is like a high point modifier, the wide receivers will jump to catch the ball. Now there's a con of holding LB L1 on your lob passes, which is the wide receiver, since it's a high point modifier, the wide receiver is gonna jump. But wait a minute, I also have a little bit of a fix for this as well. This fix involves combining everything that we've learned so far. So let's say on this lob pass that you're throwing a deep lob pass down the field. Experiment with holding that LB L1 modifier. Then right when the quarterback is in the back portion of his throwing motion, hold the left trigger or L2, which is your freeform modifier, and quickly push your left stick up to help lead the wide receiver pass to go further in front of him. I found that if timed correctly and using the rack catch button, which is X or square, depending on your console, not the aggressive catch button, you'll get the better arc on the lob pass fix, and you'll also be able to more likely not jump and actually run underneath the ball instead. So there's that kind of fix for the placement and accuracy type of issue with the arc on the lob pass. Play around with what I just taught you there, and it kind of makes up for not having the same arc on the lob passes as the Revamped passing meter does. We kind of did a little band-aid fix with it, but it does help. Now, like I said earlier, the defense has a lot of adjustments that they can really create havoc with. You have a counter to how the defense is playing zone this year. Go to a setting. This is a new setting. It's called Zone Window Awareness, and this is in the coach adjustment settings. This directs how your receivers behave against zone coverage. So when you turn this on, receivers will actively identify empty soft spots in zone coverage and decelerate to settle into those open areas rather than just blindly running through them. Now, unfortunately, from what I can tell, this isn't an individual wide receiver thing. So if you turn this on, all wide receivers will be looking to do this. I wish EA would add some type of, or you can maybe turn this on for an individual wide receiver in the hot route menu. But what can happen is, for those user defenses who love to just play zone, you have the ability to really set your wide receiver down and sit them in zones. Now remember, a lot of people are going to play aggressive zone defense. A lot of defenses are going to set their adjustments to aggressive, really jump routes this year. If you have zone window awareness on as an offense, and the defense is in aggressive, you're going to see them really jump the routes when your wide receivers try to settle in the zone. So be careful about this. If they try to jump the routes where your wide receiver is sitting in the zones, there is a counter to that as well, and that is something that's been in these games for a while, the Playmaker control. Let's get into that. So at any point, you can hold the left trigger or L2, and while holding this, flick the right stick in any direction you want a wide receiver to go. This will automatically work on the wide receiver that's closest to the quarterback, and you'll be able to steer your wide receiver to possible openings. Now also with this Playmaker control, by holding the left trigger or L2 and using the right stick, don't just use this to create openings for your wide receivers, use this to create running lanes for yourself as a quarterback as well. For example, if they are in man, or if the defense goes into plaster once you get outside the pocket, you can steer the wide receiver away from where you actually want to run, and the defense will have to make a choice to either leave the wide receiver open to come pursue you, or stay locked onto the wide receiver and leave you open to run. Practice Playmaker, as it can turn a broken play scenario into a huge play for you. Also remember, when it comes to being a great quarterback, that also involves putting your quarterback in the best place on the field to have the most accuracy and vision, which of course is inside the pocket. Here's a mistake to avoid, which causes your pocket to dissolve quicker than it should. I constantly see people do this, and it makes me nauseous. They're already lined up in shotgun, they get the snap, and they drop back an additional 10 yards to throw the ball. Stop doing that. Understand, the purpose of lining up in shotgun is so you don't have to take more than maybe a 3-step drop to be ready to throw the ball and read the defense. Understand, dropping back too far as a quarterback flattens the protective pocket into a straight line rather than maintaining a curved U-shaped barrier. This unnatural depth forces the offensive tackles to block at a wider, unsustainable angles against edge rushers. This is very difficult. Anybody who's played offensive line in real life will tell you how frustrating it is for quarterbacks who drop back too far. Remember, the goal is to use the pocket when available, as you have the best view and you have the best attack angles from there, whether you're looking to throw or run. Now, pockets won't form perfectly every time. Offensive linemen can get beat, that's understandable. So here's a tip when playing quarterback. After hiking the ball on a play, my first second of the play, I'm actually looking at the offensive line first. I'm making sure they picked up everyone, making sure no one got beat immediately, and I'm seeing how the pocket is forming. Again, this doesn't take more than a second. I'm usually letting the quarterback drop back and do its normal animation, or letting its normal animation play out during this time. By the time the drop back animation is about done, my eyes are starting to look downfield to the wide receivers. But doing this the first second after the ball is snapped allows me to read the pocket formation and see if it's clean enough to actually step up into. Again, stepping up into the pocket improves accuracy in the game's coding. Now, of course, if the play design is a quick read, like a wide receiver screen or a quick slant or quick hitches, I might not even need to look at the pocket because By the time the ball gets to my hands, I'm usually getting rid of it at that same time. So for short, quick read passing plays, I'll look at my wide receivers first, then if nothing is open, I'll then readjust my eyes to the offensive line for a second to see what the pressure is looking like before looking back downfield again. Now this may sound complicated, but when I'm glancing at my offensive line for the first second, I can still see the wide receivers out of my peripheral. And when I'm looking at the wide receivers on a quick read play, for example, I can still see the offensive line from my peripheral. So you're never completely blind to either of them, but instead just choosing where you want your primary vision to start when the ball is hiked could help drastically improve your decision making as a quarterback. Now, as I said in the beginning, we're not going to go over too much on how to read defenses, etc., but you can watch plenty of real football videos online to increase your knowledge of reading defenses, right? But I do want to focus on a few pre-snap things to implement that will help create free time and create confusion for the defenses as well, that can make your throws and reads much easier for you. First, always remember your offensive line blocking adjustment buttons. You have the left slide, which allows the line to slide to one side to block zones. You have your full slide, which means the entire offensive line will slide in one direction. This completely leaves the opposite edge open for your running back to pick up. If you don't have a running back there to help block on this scenario, I wouldn't recommend using full slide really at all. You also have max protect, which quickly hot routes your running backs and tight ends to cancel their routes and stay in to block instead. And of course you have double team. Use this if a defensive lineman is absolutely abusing one of your offensive linemen and you want to send some help. Now, new this year is the new ability to have formation shifts. This to me is one of the most important pre-snap actions you need to be using as a quarterback this year, and I'd argue that it might be your most important weapon as a quarterback this year, at least pre-snap. This is used from the play call screen. When choosing a play, use the right stick to cycle through a list of decoy formations. So what this means, or what this does, is your play that you choose will still be the same as you choose on the play call screen, but when your team breaks the huddle and lines up on the line of scrimmage, they will line up in a decoy formation. Then once you press A or X, depending on your console, they will shift back to their normal formation that you saw initially when choosing the play on the play call screen. Here's how to use this trick to really confuse defenses, especially user-controlled defenses. I like to come out in a decoy formation and let the defense start to make all their adjustments and all their shifts. Then with about 10 seconds left in the play clock, I'll press A or X depending on the console, and it'll shift me to that normal formation. This creates panic in the defense because they were just making adjustments based on what you were originally lined up in. Now they have to scramble in the last few seconds to try and redo some of their adjustments or cancel some of their adjustments, which they usually aren't going to be able to do in time by the time you hike the ball. This is going to cause them a lot of the times to make a bad or rushed adjustment that ends up leaving somebody wide open. Against user defenses, mix this up. So I might come out in 2 plays in a row with formation shifts. Then the next 3 plays, I might come out and just hike the ball with no formation shifts. This type of pattern can really stun a user-controlled defender and make them stop trusting themselves when trying to make adjustments. And it really starts to create a lot of doubt and confusion where they start to second guess themselves and second guess whether or not to do, XYZ adjustment, okay? Lastly, I'll give you a little tip on the controller that I don't think a lot of people are even aware of. And it's not the most glamorous, but it could save your quarterback's health, which is important with wear and tear being implemented, but it also can prevent a costly turnover. And that is the quarterback give yourself up button. By holding left trigger or L2 and then pressing R3, your quarterback will almost collapse or get down and take a sack or give himself up, so to speak. Some of you not familiar with football might say, why would you ever do that? Well, there's many reasons why a quarterback does this in real life. It might be because the pocket collapses suddenly and they know they are surrounded with no chance to escape out of the pocket, but they don't want to risk getting sacked or potentially risk getting a fumble or wear and tear. So instead of taking a hit or just forcing a pass which could lead to an interception, they get down, they save their health, they save the risk of a strip sack fumble. At the end of the day, it gives you a chance to live to fight another day. So you know what you need to do next. Get to the practice mode. Practice everything that we've gone over and adjust anything that we've discussed as needed, because at the end of the day, you have your own play style and preferences. Use this as a guide to come back to and whether learn from or you can tinker with some of the things that I've suggested, because I'm confident now that you've watched this video, you will be a much better quarterback in College Football 27. And if you put the work in practice mode, you will no doubt be on your way to being a great quarterback in College Football 27. Stay tuned to this channel, subscribe, because I'm going to be implementing exactly what I went over in my own quarterback series with my player, Jelani Loha. Stay tuned for that video. It's going to be unlike anything you've ever seen before, I guarantee you.